So welcome to another Pomelo Pitch Deck here, hosted on the Gener EOS channel. I'm gonna go live at 11 a.m. Standard Time. Florida EST, because I missed the calling card at 10:30. But we've got Marco Gonzalez on the line, MachnBird Sparo, and he's going to dive into his proposal. But before we get there, Marco, why don't you introduce yourself? Who are you? And you've been in space for a while, but who are you and what do you do in the space?
Well, hi, EOS Galaxy. My name is MachnBird Sparo. I prefer that. I believe gaming and NFTs are the new way we will connect with the internet. I've been writing EOS Weekly for over a year now. I say hello, EOS Galaxy, because that's the website I just put up introducing my project. Now, I believe EOS has its own galaxy. I go into a little bit of that. So my little part in it is something I termed ROS, Recreational Orbital Station. The idea being that taking EOS Weekly, the things I've learned, and my time before that, going as far back as Steam It, and connecting the ecosystem, but really focusing on the mainnet and creating neighborhoods. So it's EOSI at its core, what it was meant to be, with appreciation for the mainnet, the developers, all they do, and then expanding on how, for instance, how Wax adopted EOSIO into streamlining it, how the mainnet is crucial to the whole ecosystem, and at the same time, how Wax just outperforms everybody else. So in my second use case, this is kind of jumping ahead, is taking people who are just getting introduced to blockchain onto those next levels where they need to be, but also partnering with, say, some of the support networks. We're just getting some people up to speed. So I have a wealth of databases that I'm putting into the site, and I want to make them user-friendly. But again, focusing on neighborhoods.
Yeah, so before we go, also, if you can turn your volume up a little bit faint, but we can kind of hear you. But before we go into that, I just want to say thank you to you personally for your contributions to the ecosystem. I mean, EOS Weekly is one of those kind of go-to reports that I tune into like every week, because there's so much good information that you put in there that's like really easy to find and unpack, and like you've been doing it for a really long time, and yeah, like we try to share them on our channel over here and shout you out. Like, they're really well done. If you haven't checked out the Crypto Writer EOS Weekly episodes by Marco, like, definitely go do it, because they're excellent, actually. So yeah, thanks for that. We'll pull this up. This is the r.o.s. Hello EOS Galaxy page. Why don't you walk us through it? What do we need to
All right, I'm having a little trouble accessing the microphone volume.
It's okay. We can hear you. Everyone turn your volumes up. There we go.
All right, so on this page, I just went through the presentation on Pomelo, made it a little bit clearer, simplified, and added a few things. You have the primary objective, the secondary objective, and what I would do with funding. But I wanted to get something out there. I have a background in information science. I come from New York, newspaper working and stuff like that. So all my life I understand the value of someone's time. So I didn't want to do another pitch or anything out without providing something of value. And I added a bit of timeline. Timeline for a new dawn. If you've been around from the beginning of EOS, you know that dawn was that first thing that hit investors. And the new dawn turns out kind of coincides with the voice transition and stuff. Back in 2021, in February, we had a power-up multi-sig, allowing people to get free power-ups, and that was around the time that B1 began shifting gears, bringing in voice and the first talks of bullish. So the new timeline starts there. You have almost, I think you have 5 months of that. A lot of the content comes from EOS Weekly. I have links to all these things that I still need to add, but you have something there, part of the story. That's really what I wanted to get out today. So any questions from here, or I can delve into the objectives. I can't hear you.
Sorry, I was on mute. If you scroll down a little bit, I just want to a little bit more. Yeah, so I want to know about this image because I think it's really cool. And I also want to tap into the fact that like you got the new timeline as well. Like where you started the new timeline was with kind of, you know,
the new timeline really starts with voice moving a crypto writer off of voice into its new site.
Yeah. So why did you start there? What was the big?
It was good happenstance. My notes go back further, but the publications on the Internet Archive are easily accessible there. I want to get this out fast. At the same time, it represents the move away from B1 and toward the ENF, the EOS Network Foundation. So it works out well.
And I read things in more than they need to be read into, but this image like really speaks to me because like for the longest time we sat in EOS and there was all these crazy things that were happening out there in the crypto space, but we were kind of really secluded by ourselves. Nothing was happening, right? Like everybody was sitting here waiting for Block One to do something, which never really seemed to amount to anything. So I'm totally reading in my own ideas for this image, but I'm just like kind of curious, like what is this image and why did you choose it? Like, is there a story behind it?
I can talk for the next couple of days on how this free image from Pixels that I altered speaks volumes in what I can bring. Well, I learned to land an airplane in New York City airspace. So I ended up with a degree and a master's in aeronautics. Now, my thesis in aeronautics was I really tried to link blockchain because I believe airline rewards, the supply chains, the need for it in aviation is paramount, but I couldn't do it back then. So instead I did my thesis in mobile technology as close as I could envision where crypto would be. Now, if you know, we have some mind maps going on by Nova Crypto, and I love them. I used to use Muckety for news searches, investigating influencers and stuff like that. And I see it as perfect. You have these star charts out of the ecosystem going out of the EOS mainnet. Think of the Ross orbiting the EOS mainnet close. That if I had to choose a side, it'll always fall to the mainnet, but it's looking out into Wax, Telos, and the like. So how does Wax and Telos connect to EOS and the rest of the ecosystem? So that was when I saw the image, it was a perfect of what it could be. Looking down, like all the work that developers do, it's not, Ross is not just for the EOS mainnet, it's for anybody who's pulling off of EOS.io, but looking at what the core work groups are doing out of there, and the anguish or the hard days, the long hours. I would love to give this guy credit, the photographer.
that's pretty crazy that you learned to land a plane in New York City. Like that can't be the easiest place to land a plane. So we live like right under a flight path here, which is like in Osaka, which is one of the biggest cities in the world. It's always interesting. Cool. Yeah. So let's dive into the objectives of the ROS proposal, or the EOS Galaxy proposal, I guess.
Well, info plus culture plus EDU plus networks plus ecosystem. EOS is its own crypto galaxy. Info is first because that's what I can deliver now. Culture is second because I would like to put it first. EDU is second because I believe that a lot of I want to forward traffic. I want this place to be like a stopover for what other people are doing. So as much as it can be its own database, I won't be doing a lot of the research myself. The investigation and what I find on the links and the content will be my own, but a lot of the products won't be. So the EDU is essentially like the traffic, same with the networks, and then growing the ecosystem. Not sure exactly how it ties in, but that'll be overriding everything. The primary objective, ecosystem growth and community, are the terms used by Pomelo as far as categories. Connecting neighborhoods, I put that first, and fostering productivity, because that's where we are. We don't talk about connecting neighborhoods, but I got into EOS. I chose the commitment to EOS after looking over all the blockchain because it was a developer neighborhood. Developers can go there, build their stuff. It felt like GitHub. It was just different from a lot of the other chains. Tailored information to the mainnet community. That goes for everybody, from the new users to developers, for what people need. And right there, in that second point, if you jump to the secondary objective, there's one on the top one on the secondary objective is one-on-one discourse helping new users reach next level blockchain concepts. My blockchain stuff goes beyond EOS. I'm a CryptoKitty site designer, but I've delved into courseware from MIT, Stanford, listened to Andreas Antonopoulos for a while, Dan, everybody. And I know you can save time, and that's really what I want to do with this. I can go into all the other stuff, but I think that covers the flight path.
I just say that was like kind of the best introduction ever. Yeah, I mean, info is first because that's what I can do now, and culture is second because that's what I want to put first. I love that. Actually, I don't know how much time you spent on figuring that out, but that was great. Yeah, I mean, that's cool. So how will, of course, the quadratic funding mechanism will give you some funds to develop this. And the objectives are kind of lined out on what your focus will be. But, what are you planning to use the grant money for? How will that help you develop this out further? Are you planning on, bringing other people in to help you? Are you planning on investing in tech? What types of, things will people be able to get out of the grants in terms of the progress that they've made? You brought up Nova Crypto before. We had him on the channel the other day, and yeah, hats off to him. He went through the first grant proposal system, and the amount that they've developed from that first one to now is phenomenal, right? They've done a lot of work, MIDI, behind the scenes, not flashy work, but they've put a lot into it. And I could kind of see you as, being focused on tech and dev and things like that. I would imagine you've got a pretty thorough plan of how you're going to put this money into action, this proposal into play. So do you want to maybe go into that a little bit?
I tried to make it as straightforward as possible. Funding equals time plus staff. I haven't designed a website since my thesis. So this past day that you gave me, and I appreciate that, went into doing this. The observation deck. And so time and staff, my time, other people's time, and then professional staff is what I mean by staff. So the first thing is the observation deck. Now, before the first Eden election, I wanted to contribute, and I organized my thoughts, which is essentially this, but I just hadn't put anything down. And I did term it EOS Galaxy. It's a GitHub post going into bringing in users, traditional users, by gamifying the blockchain learning experience. Beyond not beyond, but different from how EOS developers were being taught in the little game thing that was circulating for a while. You visit the site, you're there, your activity can earn you coins, can't claim them, but once you give us an email, now that takes you to the next level. Then the next level after the email, which logically flows, might be wax. Now, all this can happen on the observation deck. So on the observation deck, you can actually you could be forwarding traffic to either a wax account, maybe depending on how the site develops, actually doing it on the site, and then getting the blockchain, getting into blocks.io, the block explorers, and getting your own EOS account, leaving the observation deck, which would then be the next stage. Now, to get to the observation deck, I need a entertaining site design. I'm also going to want data collection, investigation, and definitely some research. Now, not a lot of research, but it's got to be something that's new that I bring in there, and it will flow out of collected data, the new projects or whatever, and investigation, making sure that that data aligns, that it's true, into some sort of research. So the observation deck won't just be a site, a new site that's fun. It's also going to present something new. That's the first stage. The initial growth, once that site is up, would be promotions and community outreach. So there's something there. It doesn't have to be a lot, like the timeline. I have the information to the present. I have the links, but it's there, and I could prove it to the people that I outreach. Now, the expansion stage, my development team, I don't know what this thing will look like by then, but I know that integrating with the blockchain is what I want to do. If I want to have, if I want to gamify the experience for users, for traditional users moving into blockchain. And then ecosystem impact, and that's the overriding theme, is how the Ross station is a portal or whatnot for the ecosystem. One portal it's not aggressively seeking anything. That's my vision right now.
Cool. Do you have like I don't know. I wasn't asking this question, but it seems like a lot of people do have a price point for what they're hoping to get in terms of funding for their rounds. Do you have one, or just however much you get, you're helpful?
Right now, the project has about $100 in matching funds, and that's not a lot of my time, considering that I really have to work day in and day out to meet bills that I'm really not meeting. So anything over that goes into building the site before I can consider bringing people, dedicating money for paid staff or paid help. There has been a little bit of interest in what I'm doing here, but I don't want to ask people to put in their time unless they offer that. As far as what does any site need to get off the ground? I know Um, Research can be expensive cost, but I'm adept at it. So I can cut a lot of costs off there. Um, it's I don't expect the observation deck to be fully ready before any promotions and community outreach, but I would like something done to that effect. I don't want to use initial funds for the initial growth stage as far as giving out things because um, I want the site to be a bit of a record of what happens or have a bit of a history so people can feel like they're not just tweeting something out, that they're building something. And one of the early ways I thought to do that was share a picture of your neighborhood. And I can just do a form and then post that myself. So it's really variable and it's really how much time puts into it. I get into it, but the one of the keys to the funding is figuring out like those mind maps. And like I said, I used Muckety for a while, so I understand how impactful it can be. Is getting those little connections to the stars that you're seeing in the image in the back. Um, Getting some type of graphic that, like I was thinking, you have wax, and then wax is like spelled out in stars, and then they're connected. But what good is connecting that in an image if you're scrolling over that if those stars aren't moving somewhere? Like Jimmy um, and Corey would have their own stars with uplift, the generate EOS, and all the stuff you do, and that would open up a bunch of links and forwarding traffic to that. So that's the vision, and I can see myself reaching it to a degree early on before really taking the next stage.
I was on a show earlier tonight with a person that I had never met before, and she has a Pomelo grant. She was a little bit frustrated because a lot of her supporters don't know anything about cryptocurrency, right? And so she was having trouble with people who weren't in the cryptocurrency space, like getting EOS to be able to like contribute to the Pomelo grants. And like it wasn't necessarily EOS's fault, like it was like potentially Coinbase's fault, like transactions weren't going through, weird varied stuff. But we were talking about it, and it's funny because she actually has a proposal up on Pomelo that was looking at helping artists and NFT people promote various things that they're doing, right? Because like a lot of creative types or even dev types, they're not necessarily that good at like promoting what they're doing out there on social media. And so she, like her whole proposal was kind of filtered around this. But it's funny to hear you talking about this because I find a lot of things in the crypto space are a little bit empty, right? It's like you walk into a department store that is, selling the most fashionable items on the shelves, except the shelves aren't really there. It's just a picture on the wall that you can't actually pick up and buy things, right? And so why I'm going there with that is like a lot of times we see these dev sites or these news sites about cryptocurrency, and there's nothing there. It's just a quote that doesn't have any backing, or it's a link that goes to a website of something that we don't understand. So I think it's really interesting that you want to put something in that people can like actually interact with it rather than just see wax in the stars and glaze over it. It's like a click button that you can actually use to like garner more information, right? I think that's really what we need to get back to, right?
Did you ever see Deep Space Nine?
I did, yeah.
Not exactly like that, but forwarding traffic. If there was something that keeps coming to mind as far as the initiative, is that a nice stopover, get what you need, kind of like you're on a highway, and then go where you go, a hub on the highway. And that's how I try to get these links here. The EOS Network Foundation is linked because it's its own project. It falls in its own thing. So I tried to categorize these uh, where it would disperse people. The artist thing you mentioned, I have a friend or a friend of a friend who is a musician who's thinking of NFTs, and when I looked where to forward him some information, I had to go into searching because I'd known about a couple of them. There's Yoshi Drops. I can't name them off the top of my head, but as I looked into them, I realized how efficient the developer community is, in that they each art and music project offers something a little bit different, something unique. So while yes, they're competing, you're going to find different things from each one, and there's no place that really outlines that for a traditional user. And even someone into crypto like me, again, I don't remember them. I have a folder of them somewhere, but it'd be nice to have a site. It doesn't take that much work to organize this stuff. Like in the timeline, um, it's it's a pain in the butt putting in these links, and these links are to developer projects, GitHub things, Twitters that happened, and stuff like that for all these things that I already have. And it's annoying, but it's not a lot of work. And once you have that and you're following that, that helps you understand things. And if you can do that for the projects, which this could eventually evolve into, that I could spend the next at least so many months putting stuff together as big as EOS is, and the value add.
Yeah, it's interesting to me to again pondering where EOS is like. So I mean, as part of the writer community, I know you follow them closely, and Sean and I talk about this on our show quite a bit, but there's really no art space on EOS per se, right? And like compared to Wax or compared to Ethereum or Tezos even, right? Like the NFT or the art space on EOS is almost nothing, right? Like with the exception of Finny and Dot Gems, with the guys over at EOS Nation, there's not very much happening. Like, I know Boyd did a few NFTs over there, which were kind of cool, but compared to other places in the space, it's quite nimble, which is why the underground guys want to release their marketplace first on EOS, right? Like they want to kind of try to tap into this. My theory on this is actually that there's some really smart people working on EOS, like some of the smartest people that I've ever had the pleasure of meeting and working with, and some really dedicated people. But they're all super smart and they're all head down focused on dev, right? And like progress and what they can, bring in terms of product to the ecosystem, but nobody's talking about it, right? The room is full of furniture, but nobody's going inside because like everyone from the other blockchains or the non-crypto space, they have no idea, what's happening. I mean, even just your EOS weekly updates. Like I'm a person who delves into news fairly consistently on EOS as part of what I do here for Gener EOS. Like you're one of my go-to people because like half of the things that you bring up I don't know about, right? And like there's a lot of people out there that are interested in Eden and they haven't even heard of some of these other things, right? Like there's a lot of people out there that like hate EOS because of Block One, and like Block One isn't even on this list anymore. Like, it's fractally, it's the Eden, it's the Pomelos that are going to be probably known in the future as being able to jump start this rocket ship to the next wave away from the space station, as you kind of alluded to. So yeah, I mean, like honestly, like I hope that we're seeing a little bit of a difference in season 2, Pomelo, in my opinion. Season 1 was focused a lot of funds on development work, building out things. Season 2 seems to have like a community and social aspect to it. There's still the dev projects are still there, but there's a lot more of a social presence. Things like what you're doing to be able to get the word out there, because you can have the best place in the whole ecosystem in terms of speed or transparency or what you can actually do, like capacity, all of these things that we talk about that we say matter, but if nobody's using it because they don't know about it, then it's really not worth much, right?
I started using the word functional blockchain back with Steemit. I'm like, listening to Andreas Antonopoulos. I'm listening to him a lot because if you get into this guy's like he's a traveler. He's big with the aviation, or he's big with the travel community. And the one thing that I was getting from him, he's talking about this and this and this, and I hear the Lightning Network and stuff like that, and the ideas that they want, and the whole thing is function, supply chains, connecting supply chains. The Internet of Money implies function, and EOS is like that from the beginning. And to be functional, it has to be efficient. So, yeah. Wax, and the more you look at it, and this goes to the advanced concept, you look at wax and you think, well, that's just EOS of what it was before the fees, or the micro fees. It's not. Wax has a specific mandate, and as advanced as rocking as it is, as there's nothing on it. There's nothing like it in crypto. Blockchain needs more. EOS needs more. And when you go from function to targeted application and stuff like that for a blockchain, you get from what I was looking at when I first came in, which was one of the first industries was medical researchers using blockchain. And then I'm looking at that, and that has applied to aviation. And I'm looking at the aviation associations that govern the world. And then you see something like China building its own 747s, and what it takes to connect these supply chains on a crypto level and give rewards. Why Walmart is building its own blockchain, and why, while it's private, it's still looking at giving people ownership at some point. Limited. All this stuff is limited compared to what EOS is doing, but you start with function, and then you make it adaptable. You make it so developers can take and make it their own, and then you have the targeted function, and you have something that's easy for developers to come in. As easy it is to adopt a project in EOS, now you're looking, well, off the shelf, I have Wax if I want NFTs. There's art coming into Wax, and there's art coming into EOS, but it's not at the time that it's time efficient for these artists yet, and that's where it needs to get to. And then forwarding traffic to these things, and knowing it, because you go to Yoshi Drops, you go to the other ones for these artists, and you'd like to know where your time's going to be spent before you get into it. It's possible to do that. It's possible to communicate that.
Yeah, I'd like the focus that you actually put on time, to be honest. I will say that. So I think, when you outlined the parts of your proposal, and you kind of mentioned that, like, before I bring anyone on, I want to make sure that I'm able to pay them properly for their time. So definitely go and support, MachnBird Sparo. And if you don't know who he is, go over and check out EOS Weekly over on the Writer network. You've been doing it for quite some time. They're great weekly reviews of everything that's happening in the EOS space, focused solely on EOS, right? Which is great. Do you have any plans in the future, if things go well, to expand to other EOSI blockchains? Like, one of the nice things about Pomelo is, as long as you're kind of adding value to the community and bringing a public good, it could be potentially a project that's on Wax or Telos or Ultra, as long as it's EOSIO friendly. It's not just EOS exclusive. Or like, is your game plan to focus, entirely on EOS with this for the long run?
I'm a roadrunner. I've been a roadrunner since a young teen, delivering newspapers and stuff. One day in my little neighborhood that you can see the New York skyline, a bird flies alongside my shoulder as I'm running around our little lake in the middle of the metropolis. And then a few months later, just before I'm leaving for Florida, or maybe a year before I'm leaving for Florida, first woodpecker I ever hear is pecking. Those are the things that Wax is doing to me about organizing some of that stuff. But it's also very large, and I know if I start it and there's going to be a value add anyway, it'll take a heck of a lot of time. So yeah, I love Wax. I would love to have a takeoff point for each of the blockchains. But I heard Wax and EOS developers are looking at developing an NFT standard together, kind of using the best of both worlds. I'd like to get into that. I haven't connected with anybody really on that. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot for it. Anyway, I'm open to suggestions.
I think it's tough, right? Like you do a great job of doing the EOS roundups, right? But like, then add 3 or 4 other blockchains, like the UX network. They're starting to get a little bit back in the game. We're seeing some press stuff coming out with them, and Telos is just killing it, honestly, right? Like over with their EVM and things like that. Yeah, like you have Wax. I mean, Ultra is quiet, but I do actually think that they're building stuff on the back end that will be useful. It's just not tailored towards the crypto degens. It's more tailored towards the gaming industry. So I would love to see you get the funding that you need, and potentially be able to at some point bring people on that are knowledgeable in these other EOSIO blockchains and help to expand the system. And it's a great time for it too, right? Because like as many of you out there watching will know, the recent happenings of EOS since the EOS Network Foundation and Pomelo's kind of come into the fray, is now there's these meetings where they've got people from all EOSI blockchains sitting down together. This is a first, right? Like, this was never happening back in the Block 1 era, right? so yeah, definitely go and check it out. I'll put I should put the proposal in the comments so that people can see it. Any last thoughts?
I really focused this project on the EOS mainnet, because that's where I believe Pomelo was focused. But if I get enough people and it doesn't offend anybody, I can easily shift gears and say, what projects are both on Wax and EOS? Where are there bridges? Where do the traffics flow both ways most often? So I am open to that. And I believe, again, we are an ecosystem. So
I put both your Twitter and the Pomelo Grants Galaxy proposal in the comments, so definitely check that out. Go and like and subscribe, and go over to the Pomelo Grants proposal and have a read, and hopefully you guys can toss in an EOS or two. Remember, it's quadratic funding, so 1 or 2 EOS goes quite a long way. Thanks again for joining us, and like, the best of luck. Good luck in
thank you so
bringing
much.
the community what they need.
Thanks so much.